Let's get one thing straight. Nobody wanted to be friends with the executioner, not the baker, not the blacksmith, not even the gravedigger. In medieval Europe, the man who swung the axe lived in a world apart, feared, despised, and yet absolutely essential. He couldn't sit in church with others. His children couldn't marry into normal families. Even his touch was considered contaminating. So how did these men survive? How did they form families and create entire dynasties of death? The answer is darker than you think. When we picture medieval executioners, we imagine hooded figures on scaffolds, dramatic and theatrical. The reality? These men were social ghosts. In most towns, executioners were legally classified as dishonorable. They had to live outside town walls, often near the gallows. Some cities forced them to wear red and yellow stripes so people could avoid them in the street. Why such hatred? Because he touched the condemned. And in medieval logic, sin was contagious. To shake his hand was to invite corruption into your soul. But here's the twist. Someone had to do it. So medieval society created a system where executioners had no choice but to become their own separate world. You couldn't just decide to become an executioner. You were born into it. Executioner families passed the role from father to son, except no guild would accept them. No church would marry them to outsiders. So they married each other, forming networks across regions. The Sanson family in France held the Paris executioner position for 6 generations, 159 years, one family, hundreds of heads. And here's the cruelty. These families couldn't quit. Refusing the position meant exile or execution. The job was a cage made of blood and law. Once in, you stayed in. And so did your children. Being an executioner required surgical precision. A beheading had to be clean. One stroke. If you botched it, if blood sprayed the nobles, you'd be lucky to escape with your life. Mobs attacked incompetent executioners. Some were beaten to death on the scaffold itself. So they trained relentlessly on pigs, sheep, and dummies. They kept private logs, angle of the blade, positioning of the neck, how to read tension before the strike. This was craft knowledge, brutal and precise. But execution was just part of the job. Executioners also tortured, extracting confessions with thumbscrews, racks, and hot irons. They had to know anatomy, which bones to break without killing, which nerves caused the most pain. And strangest of all, many executioners were also town healers, because who understood the body better than the man who destroyed it? They set broken bones, sold ointments, treated dislocations. In some towns, they were the only medical care for the poor. The same hands that shattered limbs on the wheel would, the next morning, realign a farmer's wrist. The most hated man in town was also the one who healed you. Most executioners lived just outside town walls near gallows hills or plague pits, but these weren't hovels. They were paid well, fees per execution, plus torture sessions, plus the condemned's possessions. They had legal rights to clothing, jewelry, even hair. Wigs from executed criminals were popular, so executioner homes were oddly prosperous. Good furniture, stocked kitchens, but no visitors, just a family alone with its profession, counting coins stained with the condemned's last breath. The children grew up knowing what they would become, watching crowds gather on execution days, learning that those faces would never look at them with warmth. Execution day was theater. The condemned paraded through town, crowds lining streets. The executioner prepared in private, sharpening blades passed down through generations, testing scaffolds. When the moment came, the best moved with eerie calm. One stroke, the head fell. Then the long walk home, alone, while the crowd scattered and forgot him. Some executions were designed for agony. The breaking wheel tied the condemned, while the executioner shattered every major bone, ankles, thighs, arms, ribs, slowly. The crowd expected suffering, but not botched suffering. Some cities gave mercy, a secret strangulation cord pulled tight before the breaking began. The crowd thought the screaming was pain. He was already dead. Here's what most don't know. Executioners sometimes refused. In 1564, a Nuremberg executioner declined to execute a woman he believed innocent. The council threatened him with execution. He fled. Others tried to quit, save money, start over, but their reputation followed. A former executioner discovered in a new town would be driven out. There was no escape from the bloodline. The French Revolution changed everything. The guillotine replaced skill with mechanical certainty. But the Sansons operated it through the terror. Charles-Henri Sanson executed King Louis XVI himself. Generations of royal service ended by the family's executioner. By the 1800s, most dynasties dissolved. Some changed names, burned records, disappeared. But descendants remain. Teachers, engineers, shopkeepers, silent about the bloodline they carry. The shame lasted longer than the profession. So how did medieval executioners survive? They didn't. Not really. They endured. They built walls of family, ritual, and secrecy. They turned horror into craft, violence into income, shame into inheritance. But here's what haunts me. We still do this. Prison guards with PTSD matching combat veterans, drone operators in Nevada, slaughterhouse workers with injuries we'd rather not discuss. We've just sanitized it. Lethal injection behind walls, no blood in streets, no executioner walking home alone. But someone still flips the switch. Someone still carries that weight. The medieval world was honest about its brutality. It put the executioner in a striped coat by the gallows, and everyone knew what he was. We've just gotten better at hiding him. But he's still there. Always has been. Always will be. And the question isn't whether we need executioners. It's whether we're willing to admit what we ask them to become.